Hey everybody! I'm not sure how many people know we're going live here tonight because I pushed this weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. But here we are going to talk M 1931 with Peter Lorre and Fritz Lang and other stuff too. So I see that some people are in there, but let's play the intro and I'll get to talking about this. Yeah.
Is it just me? Or is it getting crazier out there?
Hey everybody, welcome to Late Late Horror Show. I am Dino as always, and good to see each and every one of you guys. Make sure you guys give a thumbs up, do all that good stuff. Check out the description, all that good stuff. Edward Stewart, Connie Clarion, Horror Junkie for Life is here. Thank you, thank you. Last night, you guys, I needed it was a busy day, busy day, and I needed the night off. So that's as simple as that. But we have a nice detective collection. Overnight compilation overnight tonight. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. A couple of things I want to mention real quick. Got a couple new things that I'm starting on the channel. One of them is what you guys hopefully just watched or will watch later. It's an original horror series by me, Creepy Chronicles. They're short. They will get longer and longer and longer as the series progress. But The Eye Collector just premiered it at 7 o'clock, and I think it's pretty damn good. It's a little giallo mixed in there, but it's just a haunting, creepy pasta type story. One I created, and I hope you guys enjoy it. The other thing that I'm doing, hello Tokar, hello Dino, hello on chat, MOR. What's going on, John Swan? And I'm going to talk about M in a second. It's been a long time since I did it, but I've got another series starting tomorrow. This is one that I'm kind of excited about too. It's the Adventures of Johnny Ryder, Detective. All stories by me. So hopefully you enjoy them. Each one deals with a mystery. I'll leave it at that. But hopefully you guys enjoy that. It will be an ongoing series, and the episodes will get longer and longer and develop more and more and more. So get used to Johnny Ryder, Detective. Season 1 is on its way. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, and going to be fun. But what else can I tell you guys? Me and Dave Plouffe this Sunday, Ghost to Ghost 1995. I may pop on live tomorrow too around this time. Check out for what I list in the morning. But yeah, lots of good stuff going on here. I just needed last night off, and that's about it. Extra read all about it. Elise Beckman, murdered ball found at the scene. Do you like the character, the Eye Collector, Edward? Do you like that? The Eye Collector? You know me in Giallo, everything's about the eyes. So I had to fit that in for the first episode. So the first episode of of Johnny Ryder is going to be the Haunted Hawthorne Mansion. Listen, there's always a mystery at hand. So hopefully you enjoy it. But let's get to this film, and I'm going to bring this over here because I like to talk to it. There's going to be kind of a casual talk. If you guys want to bring anything up, I'm watching. Please feel free to add anything you'd like if it comes to this movie. Not sure how many people have seen it. It's from 1931, Fritz Lang, starring Peter Lorre. I don't know if it gets any better than this for 1931. It is a German film, so you got to put up with subtitles, which doesn't matter. When there's a great film, there's a great film. Watch it with the subtitles, and then watch it again, and just watch the cinematography, the scene, everything that's going on. It's just wonderful. Hey, Sears James, what is going on? Again, I hope a lot of people like it. It's along the lines of the old time radio stuff, but it's more narration type story. So it's something new I'm tinkering with, and I've got the first 5 episodes of Johnny Rider up. So anyways, but yeah, this is got a lot of stuff going on, man. We're talking, politics aside from what a lot of this means in 1931, Germany and US and all that other stuff and other countries. There's serial killing, there's profiling in this that I want to touch on, which, you really didn't hear anything about profiling until decades later, but they were profiling in here, your typical profiling type serial killer analysis type, psychological type thing. But there's a lot of things. And then there's the mob mentality where should we let the people take care of people like this? Because let me go on. If you have no idea what this is going to be about, or you haven't seen it yet, there are going to be spoilers. It's almost 100 years old, so hopefully you've seen it. 10,000 rewards for Klaus Klowitzki and Sister Carla have disappeared. There you go, Edward Stewart. Yes, they were offering a large sum of money to find the murderer. And I'd like to read it right from here, just because this kind of tells you exactly what the movie's about, and then I'll get into the movie itself. But basically, M, which it was the original title was The Murderers Are Among Us, but they changed it to M. Fritz Lang says they thought it was because of the war and Germany and all that at the time, and they didn't want to get a negative connotation attached to the movie. But he said no, the M, which makes sense, came from when they take the chalk mark on the hand and they put an M on the coat of Peter Lorre's character. Hans Beckert, he's like, perfect. That's the perfect title, because that symbol, the latter half of the movie, stands out so much that I can see why he changed it. But getting onto it, and hey, Schultze, what's going on? Nice. Lorre, my favorite radio actor ever. He's the best radio actor and movie star. Yes. But M, let me read this. There have been a rash of child abductions and murders in Berlin. The murderer lures children into his confidence by candy and other such child-friendly items. Reminds me a little bit of Albert Fish, who was a serial killer of the time, very similar. Everyone is on edge because the murderer has not been caught. The most substantial pieces of evidence by the police are handwritten letters by the murderer, which he sent to the newspaper for publication. Unknown even to himself, a blind beggar who, we'll get to him, plays a big role in this movie, who identifies him. The murder squad's work is made even more difficult with the large number of tips received by the paranoid public, yes, who are quick to accuse anyone of suspicion. And I thought this very amusing, because the minute it got out, and Elsie Beckman, who was the child who before this, there were 8 abductions over the past months by this child abductor and murderer, serial killer. And everybody who approaches a child, and I would be the same way, right? There's a serial killer targeting children. My kid, first of all, I don't understand why nobody was letting their kids know. It was a different time, a different era. Parents had to work. Mother had to stay home, clean, cook, have stuff ready for the kid when they walked home. You don't usually think of stuff like this happening, which, I mean, for the most part, things like this don't happen. But when it does, it's a terrible situation. So, kids would walk home by themselves. Me as a parent, I would say walk home with a friend. Do not, just instill in your kids that they must be with somebody and never approach a stranger. If a stranger approaches you, run, hide, whatever. I mean, I taught my kid when I was young. If a stranger approaches you, you run, hide, you holler, you kick and scream, and you just make the biggest fuss you possibly can. Although I don't think I ever left my kids like alone. You know what I mean? But it's like anybody who approached the children. Once Elsie Beckman in this movie was the victim. And that was a sequence I'd like to talk about real quick. Everybody who approached a child was like, they were saying, "You're the killer, you're the killer." And in a way, it was a shame to accuse everybody. The poor old guy, the girl came up and was just asking the time. And he goes, "Oh, okay." And he was an older gentleman. And they were just going to kill him. They're like, "Listen, you're gone, man." But CM, what is going on? Travis, what is going on? Good to see you. No mercy on child killers. You better believe it, man. And we will watch what we say, I guess, in the chat, just because it's something you got to be careful with talking. It's not a good subject. But WTF, horror and sci-fi, what is going on? Did you like that first episode of Creepy Chronicle, the Eye Collector? Did you like that, WTF? Because more and more are coming, and they will get longer and longer. I think it's an ongoing series. And again, tomorrow night, stay tuned for The Adventures of Johnny Ryder, Detective. I really like how that came out. But anyways, hopefully you like that and you enjoyed that. But this mob mentality I thought was really interesting, and how everybody came together. You see in the city, especially overall in the movie, everybody came together to try to track down this serial killer, Peter Lorre's character, which is hard to do. And once we get into talking about the profiling, all that stuff, it's very interesting. But let's see, where was I on this? Including the town's leading criminals. Conversely, many want to take their case into their own hands, including the town's leading criminals, since the increased police presence had been placed a strain on the ability to conduct criminal activity. Okay, so I'm going to leave this over here. Basically, that's it. I mean, there's a child killer. It's Peter Lorre. Let's see. It was very amusing, my friend. Amusing in a good way, I hope. I took it very serious, so hopefully you enjoyed it. I knew he was in the films and a big name, but I didn't know how good he was in radio until, okay, yeah, gotcha. Sweet Indigo, what is going on? We got thunder going on here too. Definitely with the mob at the time. Yeah, 1931. It's interesting in this movie, the dynamics, how they occur. Let me just start off. Let's start talking about this, because the movie starts right off with a sequence of kids jumping rope in the courtyard of the apartment complex, and very, very. They're doing a jump rope song that's "Never Approach a Stranger." You could be gone. Stuff. It's just a very sad and downtrodden jump rope, and you 1, 2, 3, you're out. You know what I mean? Or you've been taken, or whatever. It was just a very odd thing. And the woman hollers down, "Stop singing that! Stop singing that song!" Meanwhile, the mother of Elsie Beckman is upstairs. And I would say the one thing, again, that stood out for me, not only is the movie just so well done, it's I love the 1930s. No matter where it is in the world, this is a different country. It's set in Germany, and I look at everything in this apartment, the table, the stove, the windowsill, the curtains, you know, everything that's sitting around, and I'm just going, what a different day and age. And I just love it. I love history. I love seeing stuff like that. And everything just made for, and there were sequences when she was waiting for Elsie Beckman to come home where it was the apartment scene, and Fritz Lang must have made some kind of modeled structure for the steps, because Elsie kept not Elsie, but her mother kept looking down the staircase when children were coming and where her daughter should be coming up back home. And you can tell it was made out of a model, but the camera went down and shooting down the levels of the floors. And it just looked so real and so very cool. Even though you could tell, I could tell it was a model. They built that. It's why I also really enjoy like trains, model trains. My stepdad used to make whole sets with like little trees and buildings and stuff like that. It just was so awesome. I love little worlds, you know what I mean? So that you can look down upon little worlds and just, think that you, whatever. Yeah, I'm going off track here is what I'm doing. Elsie, where are you, girl? Yes, Edward. The mother got a bit more frantic over and over again. There's James foreshadowing stranger danger. Yeah, that's what got me. There was, let's see, WTF horror and sci-fi, set dressing, street scenes, technology, cars and trains. So many fascinating changes that you can see in those movies, plus clothes style, services building. Yes, all of that stuff. And in this movie, very clean streets, nothing on the streets, clean. The set pieces, the set design, wherever they shoot locations, wonderful. I'm sure on a set in wherever. But Elsie's mother kept looking down and she just wasn't coming home. And then that leads us to the introduction of Peter Lorre's character. Yeah, I know I have to always refer to names. Hans Beckert. He comes in, his character, and he approaches in shadow, and from behind, Elsie Beckman, okay? And this is the very start of this movie. And it starts right off really just sad and like depressing, and what's going to happen. And again, throughout the movie, I think, and even the very ending, I think they're trying to make a point in many different ways about, because back in the day, as much as today, unfortunately, people go missing. Human trafficking is a big thing, a big deal. And I think back then, especially with the way things were, and how family structure was, and you remember the days you could leave the doors open and unlocked, and you didn't have to worry about people coming in. Well, technically, you have always had to worry about that. It depends where you were located in the world, where you were located in the city, right? If you were more in the slums or the ghetto or the lower income areas, and you couldn't keep an eye on your child for as long as you could, 24/7, it's the luck of the draw sometimes with what was going on then. So the kid getting to the scene, again, very depressing. And again, the mood and everything about this beginning of this film just totally puts you in that state. But he goes up, befriends her, gives her candy, of course, takes her over and gets her a balloon. And I wanted to show a picture of the balloon. Yes, WTF, I did mention Albert Fish because, yes, Albert Fish was a serial killer back in the early part of the century. Well, we can technically say the latter part of the 1800s into the early part of the 1900s. Listen, Albert Fish, Nobody knows who he is. It's a serial killer who targeted younger children and uh, who knows how many victims, hundreds upon hundreds. He would do a thing where needles were inserted in his body every time he did something wrong. And when he was finally called at the really old age, this dude went his whole life and got away with it. They found hundreds of needles, and I ain't even going to say where. Okay, because he punished himself. And it kind of leads to the same thing here. Ian Sharp, what's going on? Kind of leads the same thing here. I know, very deep, dark movie, but same thing going on here. Whereas Peter Lorre's character, he's kind of a tortured individual because he can't help what he's doing. He has these urges. He has voices in his head that tell him, you need to do this. The urge is stronger than the will to not do it. And this is the case in a lot of serial killers and people of this, state. So there is kind of a similarity there, definitely. He was a strange one, Albert Stewart. I'm sure Fish is utterly terrifying. Yes, Sam. And the fact that he got away with it for so many years, that's the sad part, and finally got found. But Linda Bear, what's going on? The balloon scene is absolutely chilling and unforgettable. And Linda Bear, that's what I'm talking about. When he approaches the blind man who is selling all of the balloons for the kids, there's these balloons up above him that he buys for the little Elsie Beckman. And it looks like an alien gray. It looks like an alien gray. I mean, it's just the oddest thing. It's, it's long in shape, tubular, and there are these ears that he kind of paper tapes on and makes a face on. Very scary, spooky in their own way. So, the balloon itself is scary. But hey, Kathy, what's going on? Howdy, Dino, and everyone. Good to see you. Edward Stewart Lorre gives another outstanding performance. Yes. 1928 Peter Kurtman murders were probably an influence. Ian Sharp, yeah, I'm sure that that was right around the time of shooting and script writing and all that good stuff. So, again, I throw back to there were a lot of stuff going on late 1800s, early 1900s, especially, even Albert Fish, like we just talked about, that I think did inspire a lot of what was in this movie also. So definitely could be one of the inspirations, but I think it was just the culture and what was going on. At this point, we haven't had this term serial killer. We just know there's been killings and there's a murder out there and they're abducting individuals or whoever. Later on down the line, we get all this profiling through the FBI and, you get the term serial killer. At this point, they didn't have that. But let's see. UFOs, no joke. What's going on? Duck Dodgers, what is going on? Good to see you. But the creepiest scene happens from this point forward. He disappears with the girl, and as he does this, he's whistling. And the blind man hears this, and he stores it in his head. I mean, they don't show him like, oh, I'm storing it into my head. It comes into play later on. But there are parts of this film that are silent. No music, no nothing, no dialogue. Again, no music in this film at all, just dialogue and speech. And of course, sound effects, horns, cars, stuff like that. But there's silent parts of this film where it makes it even more eerie. Listen, Fritz Lang, Metropolis, probably his greatest achievement, but this movie, man, it's up there. It's pretty darn good. So when he Peter Lorre's character walks off with the girl, the little Elsie Beckman, it's when they let the imagination take its course. You know, they don't show the girl, they don't even show Peter Beckman. They show glimpses of video leading up to like where he has her, bushes, where it's all going to take place, leading you up to going, and it's all silent and leading up to the bushes, a little fence, and the ball that she was playing with rolling into the dirt. Very spooky, very scary. No parent wants to see that, you know, but it makes a statement and hits you in the gut real hard with what's going on in the scene. And it's cut, it's right there. So from that point forward, you don't see a whole lot of Peter Lorre's character, except for when he writes this letter to the newspaper. Okay. And the police end up getting it. But he basically writes on a piece of paper. He's using a red pencil, I do believe, and he's writing it. It almost looks like he's writing in crayon because he's on the windowsill of a wooden windowsill where, as he's writing, it's so got so many cracks and holes and everything that it's making a certain, you know, the writing's all broken up. So they have that kind of information there in the type of paper they're using for it. Wyatt is I. Hello, hello, hello. Desert Drive-In Theater. What is going on? Hey, everybody. Good to see everybody here. I don't think anybody knew I was really going live, but I would say hit that thumbs up button, and definitely please, after this, go check out my short story, my new series called Creepy Chronicle. Okay. The first story, it's a short one. Seeing how it does, the Eye Collector. That's all I'll say. Go check it out. So what ends up happening next is they start doing some profiling on and it's interesting seeing the individual on the police force doing the profiling, because he's saying with the mannerism of them, and we know this to this day, of the writing. And who knew back in the early part of this century that they were profiling madness and other things through writing and other situations, but they were doing that through the letter. Okay. John Victor, what's going on? Huh? I'm not sure I've ever seen this. Thought I had. Oh, John Victor, even if I give away points in parts of this movie, you still got to watch this. It's in German, so there's subtitles, but it is just utterly one of the greats of the era. Okay. It's a fantastic film. And it's one that I think somebody who watches it can carry on, especially if you're young, can carry on through the rest of your life, even today, because you need, the point to this film is you need to watch your kids at all times. In the world that we live in, do not turn an eye or a head and let them go. You stay there. Let's see. Desert Drive-In Theater. This is one of the best channels on YouTube. I wouldn't be able to sleep without it at this point. Thank you, Desert Drive-In Theater. I hope everything else that I do on the channel you enjoy too as well. But thank you, thank you, thank you. Sitemkia, Falling Tree. There was no red pencil unless it was a hand-tinted print. The way I've seen it, every print has been with black and white. No. Yeah, Sitemkia, I'm talking in the storyline. It was written as a red pencil to stand out. Of course, it's a black and white film, so we can't see a red pencil, but the police force and everybody else can see that it's a red pencil. So it even comes up when they go back and look at the windowsill that they see bits of the red pencil on the windowsill, so they know and can correlate it together. So that is what I'm talking about. The profiling filming back then was mostly based on precognitions, not in actual interviews institutes. Oh, so Temke, anything you hear me talking about, I mean, I know that. I know that. Thank you for pointing that out. But I definitely wasn't stating that they had, you know what? And I don't even know if you could say that either, though, because technically, not on record, not on record, do they have profiling going on, but they didn't just pull this stuff out of their butt. Okay. There were criminals in insane asylums, institutions, people who were mad, who ended up homeless, who, yes, police force, doctors got a hold of these people. And back in the late 1800s, the beginning of the century, you better believe they were writing these things down in journals, like what causes the issues and the problems of the human brain to allow people to do these things. It was done. So I'm going to say that was going on, but it just may not have been out there in the open as much as it is today. Okay. So there you go. Statistical models come from the research that the doctors and scientists and police force actually did on their own and wrote down in journals and even in medical journals, which you can find from the late 1800s, early 1900s, where a lot of this stuff is technically written down. Okay. So may not use the word serial killer, like I said, but they talk about the behavior of the criminal mind, of the mad individual who has no remorse or no care for what he's doing. And why does he do this? Even after death, the dissection of brain tissue and other things, even back then they found out there were tumors, there were blackened parts of the brain. We found this out later on through x-rays and stuff like that sometimes certain parts of the brains that are damaged causes this. Horror Junkie for life, $5 super chat. Back when I was a young horror lass, I had a crush on Peter Lorre. Listen, nothing wrong with that. Peter Lorre also went on to play many, many other roles that are just fantastic. Thank you for correction on Red Pencil. It's been so damn long. No, I got you. I almost watched it the other night, but no, I have a turn on Criterion Edition. I'll have to turn on Criterion Edition. Yeah, that's the one that's. I watched it on HBO Max. They have the Criterion Edition up there, and it's beautiful. It's well done. It's very, very good. Most of them ended up in the psych hospitals, especially Eloise, more than 10,000 murdered there. Oh yeah, Edward Stewart. Yes. Again, Mr. Moto, Linda Bear. Yes, probably my favorite role by Mr. Moto, other than the Maltese Falcon. I mean, probably his best role is in Maltese Falcon, although the acting in Mr. Moto is fantastic, and he takes that character on so well. But Peter Lorre's done many movies over the years, but in this movie particular, I can't say it's his best role because he doesn't speak a whole lot. The peak of his performance is at the end of the movie when he's just going on and on and on, which we will talk about. But let me get to the other. Let me move along this journey of M. Can't go wrong with Peter Lorre. No. So we come up to a point where the police they're doing raids on underground speakeasies of the era and places where criminals dwell. So they're doing a lot of harm to the syndicate, to the mobsters, to the gangsters, to the underlords, so to speak. And there's a point in the movie where they come up to a room, okay, that's overlooking the city, And there are a few individuals who I believe are heads of, like you would, like in other movies, they're the heads of families and they're the heads of their group in their areas that are doing the smuggling, the whatever they're doing. But they get together and they're waiting for the big guy, the main guy, the safe cracker. And this guy is so cool. This guy is awesome. He's called the safe cracker for a reason, but he just takes on his persona. He's the leader, and they don't do nothing until he gets there. And I love when he comes to the door and he immediately looks over and he goes, "Close those blinds, you idiots." He has to set these guys straight. So he goes over and sits down. Mob bosses, yeah, another thing you could use, yeah. Guy Vermectin, what is going on? Guy Vermectin, it's been some years since I've seen you on the channel, but same person, right? I think so. Lorre was amazing in the interrogation saying, "Oh, Ian Sharp, I will talk about that." Yeah, it is so unbelievable. Serious James, and repetition, the abused becomes an abuser in some cases. Serious James. Lots of mob bosses back in that time. Oh yeah, listen. and lots of them we know how it was for the immigrants who came over and created these type of they had to make a living. They created these kind of syndicates, and they were all over the cities, all over the country, and many died. And listen, it was a bad time. The country was just getting kicked off. Of course, earlier on, but I'm talking when the immigrants started to come over on the ships and make a life for themselves over here. But yet they come to find out that there's no money, there's no jobs, there's no food. What the heck do we do? Thus started this everything we know. Okay. But I love when aloha, I'm me. Okay. Guy Vermectin, aloha from Hawaii, but I'm still trying to Guy Vermectin. Who could you be? I don't know. Anyways, good to see you. Good to see you. Don't get me going on mob bosses now. No, I won't, Edward. I want to talk about when they get together in this room and they start to talk and they start to say, this is hurting business. We're going to be out of business. There's no money to go to families, to wives, to the children, is what he said. So he comes up with this idea that, listen, I think we are the ones that should try to catch this criminal, this beast, this serial killer. So thus hatches a plan by the safecracker who is in charge throughout the rest of the movie, to go ahead and try to capture this child murderer. And his plan entails, who could we get to possibly cover an entire area? And this is where it got me thinking of Sherlock Holmes, because who did Sherlock Holmes have to do his work a lot of the times? To find out the informations, the little bits and pieces of information that he needed to catch the criminal, the Baker Street irregulars, the people, the opium addicts, the criminals, the bums, the hobos, whatever you want to call them. This is who they say, let's get the beggars to cover a mile square area at a time. So thus, at any given time, the entire city is covered with eyes. Okay. Great idea. Listen, the syndicate took care of a lot of things back in the day, but some for the good and some for the bad. But a lot of times they kept cities and neighborhoods in order. But anyways, I digress. Thus the plan. And I love it when these beggars are just at the corners everywhere. And you see them, they're filmed, at standing, and even the one dude has got this, what do they call it? Accordion, accordion, something that the thing you wind up and play music. It's this big, giant box thingy. It's incredible, but and you see the children kind of standing around and stuff, but to know that the beggars are there, keeping an eye on everybody. Okay, everyone. And again, let me stop real quick and say, please hit that thumbs up button. Please check out the detective playlist. Well, there's no playlist. It's the stream I did put together this morning. Didn't have time for timestamps. All detectives tonight. So Concrete Jungle. Yeah, there you go. But stay tuned for that. And please start checking out these original episodes I got going on right now that are going to be the one just premiered today, the Creepy Chronicles, The Eye Collector. I'm proud of the story. Listen, I think it's a pretty damn good story. It inspired, of course. I'm inspired by Giallo at this point and have been for the past year. So what do you know? It's got but they all take place a little later. This story takes place in the 70s. Whereas the episode tomorrow night, The Adventures of Johnny Ryder, Detective. The name of this episode tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time is Haunted Hawthorne Mansion, where a murder occurs and a little mystery ensues. Will Johnny Ryder figure it out? We shall see, right? Stay tuned. Organ grinder. Organ grinder. Anyways, okay, I'm losing them because I'm talking about the other shows. Okay, so we got that. So what ends up during this scene, which I thought was very interesting, when they were talking about all of this, the I'll call them mobsters, but they say gangsters, mobsters, whatever, gangsters. They're in the room. At the same time, they're having a meeting on what to do and how to figure this out. They keep switching over, Fritz Lang, he keeps switching over from that over to the police force, all gathered around an entirely large table where they're trying to figure out how the heck we capture this murder. And it goes back and forth, and then eventually getting to the point to where, again, it jumps from that scene after we're done with all of that. We find out what the gangsters are going to do, and then we find out what the police force is going to do, and they're going to raid these, these low life places and the criminal hangouts and stuff like that. And there's the sequence of scenes where it goes silent again. And I don't know why I love that. Probably because I love silent films. So when it cuts to the scenes of the police cars pulling up to these buildings, jumping out, covering the city, and walking down in straight lines, covering the streets as they're raiding these places, it's all silent. And then it's broken with a whistle. You hear a loud whistle. And then speech again. I love how he juxtaposed the criminal org with the authorities. Guy Vermeulen, yes, 100%. Trying to get that across. Hopefully I described it enough to where that's exactly what he was doing. He was juxtaposing both the criminal and the police force. And, it's interesting how the criminal syndicate had it way more put together than the police force. Although the police force was trying in their own way, by, again, profiling to some sorts, which caused them to look at any criminal that was released that had a history of mental abuse mental issues, the criminally insane, but were released and had a inkling or had the tendencies of this murder or child murder that they're trying to catch. We're enjoying the show. Thumbs up for sure. Thank you, Kinda Foggy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. And thank you, Connie Clary, for the always putting that up. Hit that bell notification, thumbs up. When you do hit that bell notification, make sure you hit everything so you're notified on everything, not just some things. YouTube's so nuts. Hit the bell, but you can be notified of some things, little things, some things, or all things. I don't understand. Criminals were organized. Yes, Ian Sharp. That's exactly why they kind of got things done, so to speak. But so they recruited the beggars. So what ends up happening now, we're about halfway in the movie where Peter Lorre's character comes out, and he hasn't killed again since Elsie Beckman, but as in most serial killers, he is looking at a window, through a window at toys going on, and he sees a glimpse in the window. Hello, Regina Daly. I just joined. M is one of my favorite movies. Awesome, awesome, awesome. They had the profiles, but police didn't have the beggars. Exactly, Guy Vermectin. Well said, well said. So he gets a glimpse of a girl behind him, and it spurs on this. You know what happens? The urges. You can see it in his face. He becomes mad with the urge that he has to kill. And, you know, they show it in his face. They do a great job of portraying that while he's looking at the image of the girl in the reflection of the glass. And he starts to follow her. And what ends up happening is his mother meets her halfway, and thus teach your child, don't go halfway. If I say stay put, you stay put until I come and get you. But let's see, where am I at? I want to make sure I hit on the certain things. So the band of beggars are out and about. They're covering the city when the blind man hears a whistle, because at this point Peter Lorre's character he's roaming around the city. He's left his apartment or his housing, his room, because he's, you know, like they did a lot of times, he's renting a room off some woman. And while he's out and about, the police actually come to his apartment because he's on the list of criminals who have either been in the system at one point and been released, and he's made the list. So they're there, and the police officer is looking at things, and he does find a table that's mahogany and glossed over. He doesn't recognize the windowsill as being a writing platform at this point. But he does find a cigarette package, you know what I mean, in the garbage. For some reason, he remembers that. He writes that down. And after he leaves, shows the chief. And the chief, I think it was Ariston. I don't think I wrote it down, but brand of cigarette, Ariston, Ariston cigarettes. There was a certain brand, and he goes, what does that mean? What does that mean? And remembers back on one of the other older cases that the same type of cigarette package was found on the scene of one of the other earlier victims, and thus gave them, you know, more urgency to follow up on him and stake him out, which is what they do. They end up going to the apartment and stake out the apartment and wait for him to come back, which he never does, because what happens. But you know, he's still prowling the city, and he does see another girl. and the beggars see him walking around with this girl, and they see him go down into a candy shop, get her some candies, brings her up, starts walking, and goes and buys her. Well, no, he doesn't buy her a balloon. Doesn't buy her a balloon, but walks by the blind man who sells the balloons. And the blind man immediately goes, I recognize that whistle. I recognize that whistle. Let's see, what's people got going on here? The least among them was the key to appending the killer. The Winville chicken coop murders was also on the same time. Off young boys. Yes, Edward Stewart. Yes. I mean, I should do a whole series on serial killers and true crime too. I'm just very into that. But yes, Linda Bear, so creepy. So the blind man with the balloons hears him whistling, and he brings over some other guy. I don't think this guy was a beggar. Yeah, he might have been. But he tells him, he says, do you hear the whistle? Do you see the guy? That's the man. That's who they're after. That's the murderer. So the whistler, the blind man, not the whistler, the blind man has identified the murderer. So this guy follows him along and follows him wherever he goes. And it's funny because the one scene, once they get to the scene, and this is where that guy who's following him puts chalk. It's funny because he comes up with this idea to mark him, because he wants everybody, once he's out of one jurisdiction, for the other beggar to see them, or for them all to congregate and get together and follow him and do whatever they need to do once they go get the safecracker and let him know. But they put a chalk M on his hand, and he walks up to Peter Lorre and runs into him and smacks his back and leaves a big M impression on his back of his coat, and walks off. I thought that ingenious. Just doing that just was ingenious. And thus coming up with the movie poster, the name of the movie, just an iconic thing to do in the movie that is just such a part of history. Just that scene, and just saying, parts of chocolate. And that guy rushes off, and he's still with the girl. And it's only when the girl says, hey, mister. And this is the sad part, you see the interaction between the young girl and Peter Lorre's character. And she's so innocent, and she's so giving into the love and the attention that this guy's giving her, not really knowing the home life or what's going on with this girl, but yet there's predators out there who prey on this type of victim, and it's so sad. And the interaction when she looks up to him and says, mister, there's some chalk or some white stuff on your back of your coat. And she tells him it's and he looks back and he sees that it's an M. And he's like, looks around and he starts to get frantic, and she says, let me wipe it off for you. Frickin' hits your heart right here, gets you just so sad, that this girl's willing to help, and she doesn't know she's helping him out, but doesn't do it because he starts to look around and he sees that he's being followed by these beggars, So what ensues next is all of the beggars kind of follow, and it's at this point that you find out that he's not this, he's a scared individual. He's scared. Of course, he's scared of being caught. But we know in the history of people like this who commit crimes and who, again, we will call serial killers, or people who do acts of violence in the criminal mind, some don't care. And some are so cocky that, if they saw that beggar, they would have gone after that person right away and maybe killed them and carried on with what they were doing. It's just in this victim or in this killer, Peter Lorre's character, Hans Beckman, Hans uh, Hans Beckert. I always refer back, he is scared. And we will come to find out later, by no means does the problems going on in his head have anything to do. And this is the dilemma. The mind of someone like him who basically is confused. Something goes off in his head when he sees the urge or the thing that puts him in the state, which he says he don't even remember. He doesn't even remember doing the things that he does. And that's something we found out through the decades to this point in history, 2023, that there are things that happen in the mind that shut things off, just like an abuser who just hides deep down inside the things that have happened to them in the past. It's the mind has a unique way of hiding things and pushing away the things that the mind can't handle, small things or large things. And we will get to that. We're getting to that very, very soon. The very ending of the movie, which very, very horrifying in itself too. But let's see. The killer confronts terror. This sounds like very interesting. Before Lang made the film, spent 8 days in a mental institution, met several child murderers, including Peter Curtin, says Duck Dodgers. Yes, Edward Stewart mentioned Peter Curtin earlier. That was right at the time of scripting and doing all the. So yes, plays a part of. I think it was Edward Stewart that said Peter Curtin, but somebody did. Probably the first time that the killer's perspective was explored in film. I do think so. I do think M is the first time. Look up Curtin. Yeah. Oh no. I know Peter Curtin. Again, I think I'd like to hit on the subject of true crime stories too here. I think I will be doing that. But a very scared individual, and he gets chased throughout the city. The beggars aren't necessarily attacking him, but they're chasing him down, trying to corner him. He gets cornered somewhat in a large office building, a large office complex. And, to the point of the crowd is getting out of work. So what do you do? So amongst all the people leaving and the crowd leaving, its work is ending. Peter Lorre's character, the murderer, the serial killer, has worked his way inside the building, and these beggars can't find him. They say, "We know he hasn't left the building. We didn't see him with any of the people coming out of the building." Curtin, the Vampire of Dusseldorf of 1920s. Yes. I think I may hit on that or Albert Fish first on the true crime series I start up soon here. I'd like to start talking about some of that. But he gets cornered in an office building. Basically, they know he's locked in there. He hasn't come out, or at least that's what they think. So they go tell the safecracker. We know where he's at. He's in the building. And the syndicate, the gangsters, they say, "Well, let's call the police. Let's let them know." That's when the safecracker comes up with the idea. He says, "No. We are going to capture the killer." I just love that. I love that. I love that he says, "We did the work. We are going to capture the killer." So he gets them all together, paddy wagon style, goes and gets in the office building by tricking the guard. There's 3 guards. All 3 of them get smacked around and tied up. It's a shame they had to do that, but the safecracker needed to know how many guards there were in the building. So he's a very thorough gentleman. So once inside the building, they're searching from the basement on up. And it's only when they come across the one guy who's playing security guard, because they got to constantly keep turning the switch that allows people to know that the building's safe. If it doesn't get switched, I remember my grandfather talking about it because he was a security guard in the early part of the century too. And he would do that. And if you forgot to hit that, an alarm would go off and they would know that, something just ain't right at this building. And Edward Case File did an excellent podcast on. So the one guy, as he gets to this door, the door that leads to some storage units, he hears some noise because Peter Lorre is on the other side, frantically trying to get his way out of this room, not knowing that the gangsters are on the other side searching the entire building. And you don't want to get out of there technically. You want to stay in there hiding and quiet. But they would eventually got to the room anyways because they were covering every square inch of that building. And what ends up happening is he hears the noise, goes down, tells the safecracker. Safecracker comes up. They bust into the room, and it was interesting seeing Peter Lorre, try to take and, screw with his knife, get the screws out of the door, then try to bend a long nail to get. Very interesting scene. But he hides in a unit, scared. Again, very scared. Very different than some of the criminals in the same type of, mindset or whatever you would call. But he's hiding, and they eventually get to where he's hiding. And by this point, they have broken down. No, not at this point. They take off. Okay, let me get ahead of myself. They take off in a sack, and they take him somewhere. Okay? They take Peter Lorre, the child killer, off somewhere. And what ends up happening is the police come there because the alarm does get pulled by one of the guardsmen. And they come to the building. They find one individual. I believe his name is Hans. He's down in the room. They believe that because he tells the story, that we were just after the killer and stuff like that. And there is this thing where they're trying to get the savings bank, but it was untouched next door. Maybe they didn't have time to get to it. But nevertheless, they get this Hans character, I believe is his name, and they interrogate him, and then they really interrogate him, and they say, this is it. This is the end of the line for you. And he breaks down and he tells them exactly what they're doing. And I love the scene because the chief has this cigar. And let me tell you, I know it's 1931, and the devices that they used, the instruments that held cigarettes and the cigars, listen, it was just so. The one dude had a cigar, and it had this looped up kind of intricate kind of object holding it. It looked different and weird, and I can imagine how much it would be now if you saw it on eBay. But very, very interesting. Really quick, Guy Vermectin, $5 super chat. Thank you. Great film. Cheers, Guy Vermectin. Much love to you. Much love to Horror Junkie for Life with the super chats. Appreciate each and every one of you guys and your support. Was that Horror Junkie? Now I got to go up. Who gave me this? Horror Junkie for Life. Yes. I had to go up there and scroll. Thank you. Much love. Means a lot for all the support that you guys give. Love that everybody's here. Spur of the moment, kind of, because I've been pushing this movie off for a long time, and I finally got to it. But at 9:04, I'm going to start talking about the ending here, because the chief breaks Hans down, and Hans tells him they've got him at a distillery, old, rundown, abandoned distillery. And this scene is so rough, is so tough. It's unbelievable. So they've got him in the basement of this distillery. He's locked in. The camera shoots a long, wide panoramic view of all of the people who were involved, the gangsters and all the people that helped, and they're all looking. There's women in there standing. You see them spotted out. And at the table is the safecracker and a couple other people. And basically the safecracker is acting like a judge. He's acting like a judge. And the funny part of the scene, if there is a funny part, is Peter Lorre has what you would call an attorney for him on his behalf. So the criminal syndicate is going to go on and let him plead his case. It's nice of the safecracker, right? But the police would do the same thing. And listen, this is going to take quite the turn. But they start talking to him, and they start really breaking him down. It's kind of a cruel scene, but not a cruel scene in the way that this guy does deserve. And a lot of people are saying that. What does this guy deserve? This guy doesn't deserve nothing. Think about the mothers and the fathers of the children that he murdered. So there's that. You see it in the faces of these people. And I love that the attorney, I mean, he's not an attorney. He's just a guy that the gangsters gave the job to defend him. And he stands up and he actually says this guy should be able to have a doctor. His mind, because Peter Lorre goes into a long speech about, not a long speech. He's fidgeting, he's crying, he's hollering, he's in the grips of torture. You can tell that he is mentally being tortured by the acts that he committed. He says he is being followed at all times when the urge just comes, and he's telling the safecracker and everybody else there, you have no idea what it's like. You guys are criminals. You know what you're doing. You know the consequences. You know what's going to happen. I, on the other hand, I get these urges and I can't help but doing what I do. And I don't even remember what I do. All he remembers is he's being followed incessantly by the parents of the victims he has murdered, and they are constantly following him. He says his shadow is following him. He is being followed by the shadow of himself, which urges him on to push and go and fulfill what he needs to fulfill so that this feeling will go away. And it's just so intense. I don't know how else to say it. And him and his defender saying that, yes, really, you wouldn't know you would think he would be in court, because this guy's saying he needs a doctor. Things like this can be fixed and can be handled in a way he doesn't mean to do the things he does. Meanwhile, nobody wants to hear that. I mean, hell, even I wouldn't want to hear it. Off with his head. Off with his head. When it comes to children, off with his head. but to each case is a different case in history, in real life, whatever. But in this movie, this is what happens. But Hans has let the police force know. So they break in, they stop everything, everybody puts their hands up, and they take him away. So the gangsters, technically, the end of the movie is kind of open-ended, story-wise. There's a point they're making, but they don't show you the ending of Hans Beckert, Peter Lorre's character. They don't show you the outcome, because as soon as that scene is over and they go to an actual courtroom where judges start to line up at a long table. You don't see Peter Lorre's character. You don't see the child murderer. You don't see him defending. You don't see him being accused. You don't see him actually getting a sentence. All you get is another scene, another scene, three women, I do believe, sitting, crying. And they're making a point. They're making, and I'll get to the chat here if you guys got anything to throw in here. Yes, please, Connie. If anybody wants to become a Patreon or a member to the channel, please do. Lots of good stuff coming up here. I've been working hard, and this next week or two, you guys will see all the new stuff and the work that I've been putting in. So the end scene is a statement. The mother's crying, basically pleading with the viewing audience to please watch your children, not just the parents, not just the family members, but people in general. People, please watch the children. Keep an eye on the children. And whether that was a statement from Fritz Lang or whoever else was involved with the making of this film and what was going on at this part of the century, which, again, a lot of disappearing children, a lot of people, if you were to profile them now, doing things and actually admitting to these types of things back at that time. Like they said, he even went and to an insane asylum to study some cases and stuff like that. So they knew. So the message here was, watch the children because they're defenseless. There's nobody there other than people, parents, family, to watch over them. So it's kind of an open-ended kind of movie there. Although I think we know, I don't think we know. Is Peter Lorre's character going to hang? Get burned? In the chair? Is he going to go again to an insane asylum where one day he could possibly be released if a doctor says he's overcome plenty and he is okay? You know what I mean? I mean, it's a bit open-ended, but I think they did that on purpose. A fantastic film. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. I don't give 10 out of 10s easy to anything, and I don't. Maybe a couple I've given out over the years, but it's a 9 out of 10. It's almost the perfect film for what it is. There's everything I love about it. Performances, setting, the statement, the way they went back and forth, the juxtaposition between the police force and the syndicate, the gangsters, whatever you want to call them. There's a lot to be said for everything done in this film. That's what other way can you take it? Let's see. Right, Dino, no mercy. You better believe it, Sirius James. Peter Lorre's characters make me think of Joseph James D'Angelo. I have to leave early. Sam, take care. This is an amazing film, chilling and sadly still relevant. Yes, yes. Excellent job as well. Peace and blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have you checked the children when a stranger calls? Good night. Okay, so agree, 9 out of 10, says Edward Stewart. There you go. I wonder what the German viewers of the day thought his fate would be. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, interesting. That's why that's the only that's one of the things that I take. I love the message at the end. Okay, I love that message, but I would have loved like this. I would have loved the 3 women's making a point. Okay, you end with, we all must keep an eye on our children. Okay, but I would have loved the very last scene, the very next scene, to be Peter Lorre's character with a sack being hung, and the trap door opens up, and there he goes, body hanging, just like in Frankenstein. Body's hanging, swinging, and the credits roll. That's the way I would love. Well, no credits rolled on this film, but that's the way I would have loved it to end, in my eyes, my opinion. Again, many different views on certain issues when it comes to the criminal mind and psychology and what people can and can't help. But it doesn't take away the evil. So at what point does evil rank higher than the sadness you feel for the person doing the evil? If you understand what I'm saying, I don't know if it even depends. That's up to everybody to make their own decision on. But there you go. M movie retrospective in the books, done. It's been weeks since I pushed this off. So here we go. Yeah, Connie Cleary, 9 out of 10. This is a classic movie. Yes. Agree the Germans thought little bit differently than we did. I think Firing Squad was the wager music was in the 20s. So true, Nino. Thank you, Guy Vermectin. Okay, so with that said, always check the channel. You never know what's going to come up. Thank you, Horror Junkie for Life, for a super chat, and Guy Vermectin for a super chat. Really appreciate it. Again, make sure you hit the thumbs up before you leave. If you're checking on this and this is later, you've made it to the end of this, think of becoming a Patreon member, please, a channel member. There will be a movie night tomorrow. I haven't posted it yet, but there will be a movie night tomorrow night. So there is that. And so be surprised with the movie. Also, please check out the new series I got on the channel. It's a short one. I think I'm going to keep them between 15 minutes to a half hour. I'm going to work my way up to a half hour for each of the stories. I'm going to have one horror, which debuted tonight. Creepy Chronicles. The first one being The Eye Collector. You be the judge. Please leave a comment, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Please check it out. They will be getting longer and longer. First 4 episodes I got ready for the other series that will be premiering tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, called The Adventures of Johnny Ryder Detective. The first episode is Haunted Hawthorne Mansion. I can tell you that the second episode, which isn't up yet, is going to be Stolen Diamonds, Unforgiven Love. The third one is going to be called Dead Man in the Alley. And I do have a second horror one for Creepy Chronicles set. Editing needs to be done, but it is about vampires, and it is called The Road Trip of Blood. So there you go. New stuff, lots of new stuff. I think I'm setting things in stone on where the channel's going, what direction it is. I would still love Elise to be here doing reviews, but as of now, she's doing the theater stuff, and not sure she's going to be up on the channel. Listen, 2 years ago she was up, and then she eventually came back again. So you may see her in the future. I hope so. But there is that. And of course, me and Dave, Remembering Art Bell on Sunday, Ghost to Ghost 1995. And I'm not sure when I'm going to get up tomorrow, but look forward to something other than the debut episode of Johnny Rider. So let me see. Thanks, Dino. Fantastic review. Great to see everyone. Check in later. Let's see. Going to line up a Fritz Lang marathon for this weekend. Awesome guy, Vermectin. The film was almost lost. I know I don't even want to talk about it. Ian Sharp, don't even want to talk about it. Restoration. I hate to even use that word because we know how many films have been lost. But anyways, with that said, I'm going to get ready for the overnight. Thank each and every one of you. Peace and love as always. And thanks for hanging out with me tonight for this controversial, deep, dark, sad movie, but a 9 out of 10. Fritz Lang, Peter Lorre, fantastic.